What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Military Miler, a show dedicated to helping military members and their families maximize their credit card benefits so they can pursue the life of their dreams. My name is Tusi, and today we're going to talk about some of the travel lessons that we've learned living overseas for the last 4 years. But before we get started, be sure to hit the follow button, leave us a 5-star rating and a review wherever you are listening. And if you ever have any questions or you want to suggest future topics for the podcast, go ahead and shoot me an email at tusi@militarymiler.com or hit me up on Instagram at militarymiler. Real quick, I want to address some listener feedback here on the show before we get into the main topic. So on the last episode, we talked about how people have been having issues upgrading from a Chase Freedom Flex card to a Chase Sapphire Reserve because the Freedom Flex is a MasterCard and the Sapphire Reserve is a Visa. And so some customer service representatives have been saying, no, you're not eligible to upgrade from a Freedom Flex to a Reserve. And last week, I talked about how some people had written in saying that they were able to upgrade their Freedom Flex to a Sapphire card, which is an old Chase card that doesn't exist for new applicants, but it's just called the Chase Sapphire card. They were able to upgrade their Freedom Flex to a Chase Sapphire and then wait a little while and then upgrade from a Sapphire to a Sapphire Reserve. And on that episode, I said that you might want to wait a billing cycle or two before you go ahead and upgrade from the Sapphire to the Sapphire Reserve, just to make sure everything on the back end with Chase is good to go. And Nathaniel wrote back in after that episode, and he said that he upgraded his Freedom Flex to a Sapphire card, and then 2 days later, he called and upgraded the Sapphire to the Sapphire Reserve with no problems, and they've already shipped the card. He simply waited until he got a confirmation that Chase had shipped the Chase Sapphire card. And so once he got the confirmation it shipped, he called, changed it from a Sapphire to a Sapphire Reserve. And so that whole process only took 2 days. Nathaniel, thanks again for sending that in. That's really helpful information. Just wanted to share that on the show. And then also to everyone who has shot me an email just saying, hey, can you add me to the distro when you send out the 0 to 10 strategies? Just want to say thank you. I've received your emails. I haven't gotten back to a lot of emails, so I'm sorry I haven't responded to everybody yet. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that I've got some bags under my eyes. This last week, we have been in survival mode. Everyone in the family is sick. I came down with bronchitis. The girls are just like snot-faced and all the coughing, and we have been doing a ton of traveling. All of the family members that have been here have all since left now, and we've just been in recovery mode ever since as I've been back at work, and we are not operating at 100% right now over here. So actually shout out to my wife who is watching all 3 of our girls right now, and I can hear them screaming downstairs. So we're going to get through this and I'll get back to helping them. Anyway, I just want to say I really appreciate everybody's patience as we get to this stuff. But as soon as I have all of the 0 to 10 stuff actually put together in email format, then I will be sending that out. So thank you everybody for your patience. And then one reminder, lots of people wrote in saying that they were able to jump on the Hilton elevated welcome offers before those offers ended April 15th. Congrats to everyone who jumped in on those offers. They were great. When those Hilton cards come back up on that same offer, I'll blast it again here on the episode or here on the podcast. And I'll probably start shooting some emails out too, just to make sure everyone doesn't miss any of those things. But I just want to remind everyone that the Marriott cards with American Express, they have super high welcome offers until May 13th of 2026. If those cards fit into your plan, you definitely want to jump on those sooner rather than later, as you have a little less than a month for those. As a reminder, the Marriott Brilliant is the highest tier card. It has a 200,000 point welcome offer, which is the highest welcome offer I think it's ever had. The Bevy has a 175,000 point welcome offer, which also might be the highest offer that it's ever had. And then the business card, if that is something you're interested in, it has a welcome offer of 5 50K free night certificates, which can definitely be worth more than the $125 annual fee that you'd have to pay with it. But just want to remind everyone that those 3 cards, those welcome offers end May 13th of this year. If you're considering that, definitely going to want to jump on those. And I know my wife and I, we're going to be jumping on the Brilliants here soon. Probably not going to be eligible for the welcome offer since we have Chase Marriott cards already, but I'm still going to be worth opening those. Anyway, if you are opening any of those cards to try and hit those welcome offers, or even if you're not eligible for the offers, but you just want the Marriott Brilliant card so that you're earning all of those recurring benefits and the annual free night certificate on that card, we would greatly appreciate it if you used our referral links in the description below. When you sign up for a card using one of our links, that's how you can support the show monetarily. So thank you for using those links. All right, let's jump into it. The main topic, lessons that we have learned from living overseas for 4 years. specifically living in Italy. I know living overseas is a big thing. If you're living in Japan, if you're living in Germany, if you're living in Guam, all the lessons you're going to learn are going to be so different. If you are also stationed overseas, I would love to hear what lessons you have learned from whatever bases that you are assigned to. And I know it's also the lessons that you're going to learn living in one country versus another may also depend on whether or not you're like living on base, or you're living off base, how far off base you are, what kind of base it is, what service you're in. I have so many different things. So if you have been stationed overseas, either in the past or currently, and you have some big like travel lessons learned, please write in. Shoot me an email at 2c@militarymiler.com or hit me up on Instagram. I would love to hear all of your lessons learned, and I will happily share them here on the show as well. One of the biggest things about the Military Miler that I want is yes, I do a lot of the experimentation and trying to figure out optimized ways to do all these things for credit card rewards for military members, but I can't do everything, and I don't have all of the experiences that can be had. And I love hearing from listeners writing and just saying, hey, I did this, like Nathaniel. Hey, I was able to upgrade it just 2 days later. Sweet. I'm not in that situation right now, so I wouldn't know that otherwise. Please write in. I would love to hear all of your lessons learned. In a future episode, we're going to talk specifically about points and miles lessons learned related to actually like bookings, redemptions, and specific credit card benefits. But in this case, today is actually a more travel focused episode on what it's been like adjusting and learning to travel differently since we've been over here these last 4 years. And I'm also super excited. I've mentioned it before, but our next assignment is to Kadena in Okinawa, Japan. And so we've got another 3 years of overseas time to learn more lessons and to learn a lot of lessons living over in PACAF over in Japan. So I'm very excited to keep this ship going. But yeah, so a little backtracking. We've been living in Europe here for 4 years now, here in northern Italy, and a lot has changed in those 4 years. When we arrived, we had one 7-month-old baby, and now we have 3 kids, ages 4, almost 2, and almost 2 months. And while we do not claim to be travel experts by any means, we have learned a lot of things through trial and error, and I'll share a couple of our big mistakes that we've made along the way. We have done a lot of traveling, and I just want to share some of these lessons that we've learned. Some of them are more tactical than others. Some are maybe a little bit more existential ways of thinking about family relationships and traveling and things. But hopefully, some of the things that I share here on the show, you can either relate to totally, or just maybe help you think of other things to consider as you go about traveling. And a lot of people have written in talking about traveling with kids. While it's not super in-depth today on all things kid related, there are several lessons that we have learned traveling with kids, where that's actually the first point that we're going to jump into. So let's just get right into it. What it's actually like traveling with kids for us. So when we had just the baby, we had to accept that everything was taking longer. We didn't realize how much longer it would take us. But we didn't realize that if we were driving every couple of hours, sometimes every hour and a half, we'd have to stop for my wife to nurse the baby, and it just slowed things down. Even if it only takes them 20 minutes to feed the baby, we had to pull over, we had to stop, and a couple times, we might as well just stop at this gas station so I can go use the bathroom, maybe grab some food. It slows travel down. So everything takes a little bit longer, and you're going to stop more often, and that's okay. That's just part of the travel. So there's no need to get super upset about it. Just plan ahead and know that if you're trying to take a 6-hour trip, that it might actually take you 8 hours to make it happen. You've got to build that margin in because it's not the same. Another lesson we learned with a baby is that when you start traveling, wandering beautiful cities, you may forget to check your baby's diaper. So you may want to start, whether you have to set yourself alarms or something, just check how your baby's diaper's doing more often than you think you need to. Once upon a time, we were in Vienna. It was very cold. It was snowing. We had been wandering around for hours, and our baby was just in the stroller. She was not even a year old yet. And because she was in the stroller and she was pretty quiet, she's all bundled up, we forgot to check her diaper for 4 or 5 hours. And she started to get a little fussy, and we checked, and she was soaking wet. Her diaper had burst, and she was just like all the way up to her chest. She was soaking wet. And it was an event. And not only that, we didn't have extra clothes for her. And so now her clothes were wet. We didn't have extra clothes, and we had to figure out where and how to change her diaper because we were just walking around Vienna, and in Europe, public bathrooms are hard to come by. And when you do, they are often maybe small or not well kept or not going to have a changing table, and you have to pay to use them. And so it's just a lot harder to find a bathroom. And so we ended up changing her diaper just right there in the stroller. We kind of laid it down, changed her diaper, but it's still snowing on us. It's freezing cold. She's wet, and we don't want her sitting in wet clothes. So we took the clothes off, and I take off one of my jackets, and we wrap her in a jacket and this like rain cover, like rain fly thing that we had for the backpacks. And then from there, we just hustled home because we're like, this is just going to get worse. And we were like an hour away from the hotel. That made for a long, long walk. We haven't done that again. We bring changes of clothes now, and we think to change our baby's diapers more frequently. Yeah, don't do that. Next one was one time my wife was in Venice, and she was at St. Marco's Square, which St. Mark's Square, apparently it is not acceptable per the police to change your diaper in that gigantic public square. And my wife learned that the hard way as she was finishing just changing a diaper right there on the steps, and the police came over and yelled at her. So at that point she was like, I'm already done, so I'm not going to go to the public restroom now to change this diaper. But just with that, you may not know exactly where the best places to change diapers are. And if it's a poopy diaper and you're like on a train, great. Do I leave this child here who's now just going to stink up this whole train? But also if I change the diaper, expose the diaper to everyone, and now the train smells even worse. And like, you got to pick your battles, but you may just need to be a little bit more proactive. If there is an opportune time to change a diaper, you may just say, hey, let's change it right now, because we may not have the chance, or there may not be a good place or a good way to do it elsewhere. So something to consider. On the flip side though, at least here in Italy, Italians love babies. They love babies. And I think it's because they have a declining population and no one has babies. And if you only have one or two kids, and then your kids only have one or two kids, there aren't that many babies to go around. Like, our entire neighborhood is like a retirement community. It's all old people. And when people see a baby, they stop and they're like, oh my gosh. And they want to stop and they want to talk to you. And so that's been a great way for us to practice our Italian, but to just make friends with people and just to have really wonderful, friendly interactions with all of the Italians. If you're trying to figure out a way to connect with strangers in a new country, maybe have a baby. And that might be a good conversation starter. Of course, then you have a baby. Something to consider. Now, traveling with toddlers are not built for sitting still or very long days in a car seat. So you've got to plan ways for them to burn their energy. Like, they need to wiggle, they need to get their wiggles out. And if you don't plan to get their wiggles out, they will get their wiggles out, usually via screaming. I hate the London Heathrow Airport. It is one of the worst airports on the planet, and I don't think I'm alone in that opinion. However, London Heathrow has these indoor playgrounds in the airport that are incredible. They're really tucked away, so they're not they're not in the way of, like, they're close enough to gates that you can like leave it and get to your gate if you're flying out of one of those terminals, but tucked away so that they're not super noisy or disruptive. But there's like this secluded little place with a padded jungle gym and slides and things to climb, and they've got padded benches, and it's really nice. It's such a great place it's like a McDonald's playground, but like all padded, which is so nice because then our kids can just run around and play and roll and play with other kids that are there. And one time there's a family from France there, and I speak a little bit of French. And so we talked, and kids are playing and the kids don't understand each other. Our daughter just goes right up to the French kid and just says, do you want to come with me? And she kind of points, and the kid doesn't know what she's saying, but in the way that kids talk to each other, she's just like pointing, and then they run away and they're just laughing and just having a fun time. And in this place, like, it's what makes it so nice is, one, your kid gets to get their wiggles out, but also you get to unload a little bit of the burden of making sure that your child isn't like super disruptive in polite society, which is something that I think most parents are constantly thinking about, is trying to make sure their kids don't ruin everyone else's day. And so having them in there in that space that is it's secluded, isolated, and specifically for children is so nice, because then you don't have to worry about them disrupting anyone else, and you can just really relax. And there have been a couple times where, depending on how long our layover is, we go there, we're playing, there's vending machines not far, and like my wife can lay down on one of these, like the big padded benches. She can lay down and just take a nap while I watch the kids. So they're super awesome. That's probably the only redeeming thing about the London Heathrow Airport. I don't know if other airports have them. If you know of another airport that has them, please let me know. But yeah, I think it's super cool. Yeah, but when we've gone to San Gimignano, when we've gone to Orvieto, when we've gone to Ano in Switzerland, we have seen some of the coolest playgrounds in some of the coolest places. I remember when we stayed at the Hotel Lugano in Switzerland, as we like, the hotel itself is up on a hill, and then the city is, you walk downhill all the way to the city. But about halfway up the hill, or maybe 3/4 of the way up the hill, there's a playground. And as we were driving up, we noticed, was that a playground over there? Because it's tucked off in the corner. And so one day we decided, hey, like on our way back up, let's stop at the playground and the kids can just play. And it was a beautiful day. This playground overlooks the lake, and our girls just played and had the time of their lives. And my wife and sister-in-law were able to just sit and relax. And I went and played with the kids, and they had drinking fountains there. So we filled up our water bottles, and it was just so comfortable. In Orvieto, though, there was another playground that we stopped, and the girls went on the slide like 100 times. And there's trash cans everywhere. And so when we had to change a diaper, we changed a diaper, tossed in the trash can. Like, very convenient and so helpful to help the kids do something that they want to do. Because oftentimes, like, at least for our little kids, they don't want to go do all the things that we are going to go do. We're going to go inside the church. I don't want to go inside the church. Hey, we're going to go see this beautiful chapel, this beautiful cathedral. You're just going to have to deal with it because we're going. And so playgrounds are a wonderful place for you to be able to give your child some time to just do something that they want to do and get all their wiggles out. And also, that is a place for kids to be kids. And so again, you get to unload a little bit of that burden of making sure your child is not disrupting everyone else in all of these busy places. And looking for playgrounds is awesome. And we have found some of just the most beautiful playgrounds, or maybe just like a regular playground, but in a beautiful place being out here. That is something that we absolutely love. I won't say that we specifically go out of our way looking for playgrounds, but if we run across them, we will often stop to let our kid, or maybe either stop then or plan to come back to them later on. All right. And now we have multiple kids. We have 3 kids now, and we plan on having many more. But just something I've noticed is that we have naturally divided the responsibilities for our traveling. And because I'm player 1 in this 2-player game of points and miles, and I'm the one who's got like the weird obsession with all the credit card things. I'm the one who's deciding what credit cards we're opening, what points and miles we're going to have, and then what things we're going to use to book hotels. And so all of the hotels and the points and miles stuff, like, I'm the one looking at all of that. However, my wife has spent more time in Europe than I have, and so she's more adept at navigating trains and buses and public transportation. She knows which apps to use, which lines to take. And so she is the one who does a lot of the navigation once we are in a city and we're trying to get around. She's the one who usually does that. She's the one who's usually booking the train tickets and all of that. And then when it comes to like cash flights that we're just like flying around Europe, my wife's usually the one who will look for those. If it's like I'm looking around, I'm like, hey, I don't see any points options available that make any sense. So let's just go with the cash rate. And then she's usually the one who then takes over from there. But once we're on the ground, once we're in a place and we're wandering around, we're going places, the way that we've just navigated it is that the youngest baby, the one who like needs mama the most, is with my wife. And she's the one carrying her. And then I usually handle the rest of the kids and or all of the luggage, depending on how much luggage we have, pack mule, all the backpacks and the side bags, and then like holding kids' hands, or I got another kid on me, or sometimes my wife will have the baby on the carrier and then holding another kid's hand, or just carrying another kid in her arms. And it was what made the most sense for us and how we naturally fell into things. But I would say that as you start traveling more frequently and you're newly married or you're just having kids, if one person does a certain portion of all of the planning and the other person does another portion of it, it's probably the best way for you to not forget anything. Like all of our passports and documents, they all stay in the diaper bag and my wife keeps them. And so whenever we're going anywhere, I just say, do you have the passports? And she double checks. She's yes. And then if for a bunch of the other stuff, she'll ask me, she's like, hey, do you have the chargers, the cables, the blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yes, I've got it all. We're good to go. And then when it comes to packing, like my wife's the one who usually packs for all of our kids. And I packed basically just for myself, because the loser in that aspect, because she also does so much traveling without me when I'm TDY, when I'm gone. And so and then she's home with kids all day. So her ability to pack all the stuff and know all the things to bring for the girls is far better than mine. And it's easier for her to just take care of it, and then not for me to do it, because if I do it, then she's going to have to double check. Did you bring this? Did you think about that? And I will probably say no, because I never think of all the things for our daughters that we need. She's taken that on as her responsibility, and it's the easiest thing for both of us to do. All right. The next is what it looks like when we're actually like staying in location. Something that we have learned is that location matters so much to us. And when it was just when we were single or when we were just married, like we would be more willing to stay pretty far away, take the train a half an hour into town, take the buses, whatever, to then go do all our exploring and whatnot. And that was definitely a way to save a lot of money, especially when we weren't making that much money or when we were students in college and stuff. But now we use points and miles for as much as we possibly can. So it doesn't cost us any more cash necessarily. But also as I've gotten better at using and redeeming points and miles, I've been able to get us places that are far more convenient, that are downtown, that are in city centers. And that often means they're more expensive with points, but we value them so much more. They're also often quite luxurious. That's really fun. But the ability to stay like in a city center, if you're staying in like a big European city, it gives you a tremendous amount of flexibility. And that's the piece that we didn't realize would be so valuable to us as we have kids. For example, we pull up, let's say it's been a long drive. We just drive up, we just get to Vienna. And this time, instead of staying like a half hour outside of like downtown, this time we used all the Hyatt points to stay at the Park Hyatt Vienna. And so we drive through the city to the Park Hyatt, valet parking, which we got for free because we had Hyatt Globalist status. We hop out of the car, we grab all our stuff, and then they take the car and they go park it. We go inside, we check in, they show us our rooms. We're like, this place is so freaking cool because the Park Hyatt Vienna is incredible. And then once we're settled in, we are out the front door and we are wandering the streets of beautiful Vienna in Austria. And it like that quickly. There was no other, okay, now we got to get everything ready to go hop on the train, to get into town, to then walk around. We walk out the doors and we're going. We are seeing things. We are doing things. We're eating things. It happens immediately once you get into town. So if you're going to a place like that, may help you maximize the evening that you have. If you're going to get into a place around check-in time, 3, 4 o'clock, like that may give you time to do some wandering, see some things, and then get dinner. And then for us, since we have kids, we do our best not to stay out super duper late so that the girls can get a good night's sleep so that the next day isn't absolutely miserable. And usually we'll go get dinner and then we come back to the hotel. And so being able to get dinner, enjoy it, and then be back at the hotel within 15 or 20 minutes is so nice because then we can get back if we need to do baths, showers, whatever, put the kids to bed. And then my wife and I, or like when our sister-in-laws come to visit a few times, like we put the girls to bed and then we're playing games. We bring some card games, we bring some small decks and stuff, and we just play. Or we watch a movie, or we just sit and talk. We make some tea and we just sit out on the balcony and we enjoy the incredible views, or we just sit and talk, and it makes things so calming and relaxing. And then the next morning, get up. Most of the hotels we stay at, we were able to get free breakfast. And so you get this nice spread of breakfast. And then once everyone's filled up, got a lot of good protein in them, like you're outside and you get to go see things and do things like immediately. You get a few hours outside and then you grab some lunch and you say, hey, let's head back to the hotel so the girls can take a nap. All right, sweet. And yeah, we let the girls nap in the stroller and the carriers. If they fall asleep, then we'll keep chugging along. But if we're also a little bit tired on our feet, hey, we'll go back to the hotel. They will take a nap. We'll put up our feet. Maybe we'll play some games for a little bit. And then when they wake up, everyone gets their shoes on. We head right back out and we're out seeing things. We're out doing things. We're out eating things. And then restaurant, we're having dinner. We're seeing the cathedrals. We're seeing more things. And then back to the hotel, another earlier night, if you will. And it just makes things so much less stressful, so much more calming. There's a little bit more downtime. And again, that's a different way of traveling than if you're on your own and you can just be out all day and it's not a big deal. But when you've got children, like that totally changes. So being able to use your points and miles to stay at places that are central locations, premium locations, like it matters. Or at least we value it. My wife and I value it a ton. So that's something that it means a lot more to us. Okay, road trip lessons, because we've done a lot of road tripping out here. Before we had kids, we would drive 8-10 hours. Not a big deal. Would stop a couple times. My wife's got like a bladder of iron, so she could do that whole time without going to the bathroom. I've got a bladder like made out of paper, and so I got to pee every 2 hours. But still, like we can make long road trips. Not a big deal. Now we are not driving more than 6 hours, like at all. We're aiming for that 4 to 6 hour range. And if you do a lot more than that, or at least for us, like our kids start to melt down. It's too much for them. They just get exhausted, or they get so antsy that they're just like insufferable. And then that wears on us, and then we get tired and we don't want to deal with it anymore. And so we're not exactly at our best when we push it. So we do our best to build our travel plans around that 4 to 6 hour range. And that means that when we go on long trips, we just got to break it into more days. And that's fine. It means we get to stop and see beautiful things all along the way. And then as we're driving, we do our best to add some intentional stops. If they fall asleep and we're like, hey, we can just push it another hour or two before we stop, like we do. And we send it and it's great. But we will often like specifically look to pull over and have a picnic at a grocery store or something. Or if we find a place with lots of grass, if we got a cooler with food and stuff. Otherwise, we'll stop out in Italy. There isn't exactly like fast food or anything along the freeway. We'll pull over at a bigger, like at a rest stop or something. We'll grab some food if they've got a cafe in the gas station or something. And we'll just sit down. Girls can run around for a little bit. We'll just stop and eat and then get back in the car and head out. And again, it lengthens the drive time for sure, but that is one of the ways that we have found to just help us maintain our sanity. So if a destination is normally like 10 or 12 hours away, we just turn it into a 2 or 3 day trip to get down there. And that means another 2 or 3 day trip on the way back. And it's just how we have to travel. And that's okay. And we just accept it. And if it's not worth it to us to go to turn that kind of a trip into like an 8 day trip, then we're not going to do it. But we have found that as we slow the trip down like that it's a lot more enjoyable for us and for our daughters. And it helps them also stay on their sleep schedules for the most part. They definitely stay up later when we're traveling like that. But back when our oldest was more susceptible to having her sleep like totally disrupted, it made a big difference for sure. Okay, and just a couple kind of random nuances being here in Italy. I know it's the same in many other countries here in Europe, but missing your exit on the freeway can be brutal. Like absolutely brutal. Sometimes you may not see an exit for half an hour. And so if you missed your turn, you may have just added 30, 40, 50 minutes to your drive because you missed it. And that really sucks. And we've done it many times. And what happens is you miss your exit. Now you drive another 15, 20 minutes and you got to exit the toll road. You got to pay your toll. Then you got to re-enter, go in the other direction. Sometimes it means you got to go on a different freeway that merges. And then you get on, you pay your toll or you get your toll ticket and you turn around. It takes forever to come back. And now you've also just increased the cost of your trip like another 10 euro because you missed it. And you added all this time to your trip. So it's a huge pain and it happens way more often than you'd think. That's something to consider. And then as far as driving in the car goes, so we actually have a basket that my wife keeps in the minivan, and it's just got several different books, blankets, and a couple small toys. We don't fill the car with tons of toys. And we used to have some drawing pads that somehow all went missing. Like we had 2 of them. They went missing. We're going to be getting more of them because the crayons and colored pencils in the car is just too much drama. It is between the 4-year-old and the 2-year-old, the fighting, the throwing, the dropping your stuff and you can't pick it up. Like it's too much. So we are moving back to drawing pads for sure, since that's a much easier way for the coloring. But my wife keeps this basket in the car. And so it's got several different books. And they're books that stay in the car. So it's not like the girls read those books when they're inside. It's specifically like road tripping books. And I'll be honest, they're books that we don't want to read all the time, but that the girls enjoy reading in the car. And so we've got a bunch of those in the car, and that helps that that stuff just stays in the car. That way, just on a daily basis, if they ever want to look at those things while we're driving, they can. But another thing, it really helped when we had just 1 or 2 kids, but we would bring an old pair of Beats headphones, like big over-ear headphones. And after, we could only listen to so much Disney music at a time. And so when our daughter would really want to listen to another soundtrack and we're like, we're done. We just listened to 3 in a row. We can't do another one. We would put the headphones on our daughter and she would just listen to some music while she's looking out the window. And then my wife and I would turn on one of our audiobooks. So that was awesome. It's a little bit harder now that our daughters are 4 and 2, because now the 2-year-old would be missing out. So if the 2-year-old's asleep, then it works. But it was really helpful when when our oldest was just a toddler and the other one was a baby. Now that they're both older, we just tell them like, okay, after we listen to this soundtrack, Mommy and I are going to listen to our book. And sometimes they throw a fit, but they get over it, or it just incentivizes them to fall asleep. And that can be a good option for you as well. On that note, living in Europe, I know it's the case in many other places, but cars, like traveling by car, isn't always the best option. There are a lot of cities that are not car friendly, not like parking friendly, and they are way better for walking or for public transportation. So wherever you're going, if you're thinking that it may not be a great idea for taking your car places or the parking's going to be abysmal, just learn how to use the train apps. You can figure out which app works best in Verona or in Florence or in Rome or in whatever cities you're in. But the trains, they're often so much cheaper. And the bus systems, like Yeah, sometimes they can be a little bit hard to navigate. Like which stop when you're like standing on an intersection, you're like, I don't know which of these bus stops I'm supposed to go to. But like when it comes to buses, like buses come every 5 to 10 minutes. It's not a big deal if you miss your bus compared to missing a regional train or something like that. But also think it's just good practice to learn how to use public transportation because it's such a different way to see a city. And I think public transportation is just like a great thing for cities to have. And I think they are more intimidating than they are actually hard to use. I find them to be pretty straightforward, pretty easy to use. I think people, if you've never traveled by train or on buses inside of a city that you've never been to, like it can be more intimidating, and I get it, but I think it's totally worth it for you to figure it out. And public transportation, like, it's cheaper for sure, like way cheaper. And in a lot of places, it's easier because you don't have to worry about having a car and parking it. Parking can be absolutely terrible. You're going to be driving around forever, or traffic is terrible because the only things driving in some of these cities are just like buses and taxis, and like your ability to drive and find parking, forget about it. It's just, and so taking public transportation is also just so much less stressful. And with that, a tangent of that, but related because it may be part of your decision-making process, not all cities are stroller friendly. And even if the city is stroller friendly, it may not be worth it for you to take a stroller if you have kids based on the kinds of transportation that you're going to be taking. Venice, for example, not stroller friendly. I would not recommend you take a stroller there ever because there are so many stairs. You're taking bridges, the stairs up, bridge over a canal, and then right back down. There's so many stairs. The streets are really narrow. It is not worth taking a stroller. We see people with strollers there all the time, and we say, yeah, it's not worth it. And if you're going to take multiple trains or buses with lots of connections, you may not want a stroller. We have taken a stroller up into Austria one time, and every train that we got on, we had to find a place to put the stroller, and it was really inconvenient and cumbersome. The stroller kept falling over, and we'd get yelled at because the stroller was in the wrong place because it had fallen over while we were sitting in our seats, and we didn't see that it slid across the train. And like, it just may be too much. It may be more than you want to deal with. And so I recommend that if you've got kids, that you invest in good child carriers, whether you carry them on your front or on your back. I would just recommend that you don't skimp on them. If you're wearing a child for several hours, it makes a total difference if you have a good carrier or not. We were gifted a carrier when we got married, secondhand. We were so grateful for it. And we took it on a trip to Verona. And after just a couple hours, like, my shoulders were killing me. It was so uncomfortable. And I don't know if it was more or less uncomfortable for our daughter, but it left me messed up for a couple days. And so we started researching some different carriers, and we got an Ergo Baby, and it's been awesome. We've absolutely loved it. We got a second carrier that holds like bigger kids as well. I don't remember the name of the company, but that has also been super awesome, and it's like Star Wars themed, which is pretty cool. But now we can carry either our 2-year-old or our 4-year-old or the infant. We can carry them in one of the carriers. We could carry them all day. And yeah, you're going to get a little bit tired, but they distribute the weight onto your hips pretty well and off your shoulders, and you can adjust it. If your hips are tired, you want to put the weight on your shoulders or back and forth. They're just pretty comfortable. Now, you may want a stroller because your child may take better naps in a stroller versus in a carrier. And if you're going to be out and about all day, and if the roads and the sidewalks and stuff are better paved, it can make a huge difference whether your child gets a good nap in the stroller or not. So we definitely take strollers places, and it just may be something you want to consider before you go, because if a place is not stroller friendly, you may end up lifting and carrying your stroller up and down or all over the place, and it may be a lot. A couple of these, just two super random things with respect to Europe. One, grocery stores don't often have bathrooms. Didn't know that. So if you are looking for bathrooms, you're looking more at gas stations and restaurants, and you'd have to pay to eat at the restaurant in order to use their bathroom. Pretty much anywhere where you're going to pay for things to be at, then yeah, they'll have a restaurant or a bathroom for you to use. And then there's like public restrooms that you have to pay for. Get over it. You're just going to have to pay for a public bathroom. And it is what it is. I think it's dumb that we still have to pay for bathrooms in Europe when, paying for the bathrooms is what it pays to keep it clean. Okay, yeah, cool. Or to just funnel some government funds to pay for cleaning the bathrooms. So I think it's crazy, but it is what it is. Just like, there's no reason to sit and complain about it every time. Just know that you got to have some coins on you. We've seen a lot of bathrooms with tap to pay options, so that's really nice. But just know that it's going to be harder to find bathrooms. So take advantage of bathrooms when you can. Like when you're at a restaurant, if you're going to sit down to eat lunch, use a bathroom when you get there. Use the bathroom before you leave. Make sure all of your kids use the bathroom before you leave, because you don't know when you're going to find another bathroom. Additionally, water, when you're like, there are public drinking fountains in lots of different places. In Florence, there's actually a public sparkling water drinking fountain, which is dope. But if you're at a restaurant, you're probably going to have to pay for water. And it is what it is. Like, it's a silly thing that we all complain. What do you mean I have to pay $3 for water? Yeah, you had to pay $3 for water, for a liter of water. Yeah, it's dumb. Also, just stop complaining about it. Like, it is what it is. Just move on, especially if you're living in Europe or you're living overseas. Just accept the fact that it's part of the cost and move on. Okay, the last thing, this is where we get more into the mindset of traveling, and something that my wife and I have been talking a lot about, and that has been like sitting on my mind for the last several days. And the first thing that we say is that when people come to visit, or when we're talking about travel, the biggest thing that we tell people is to just treat every place like you have the opportunity to come back, like you're going to come back. Don't try to cram it all into one trip. It is absolutely impossible to see everything in a place. There are so many places in this country that we had never heard of ever. We happened upon them and they were incredible. And sometimes we've gone back to those places because they're so incredible. But if you take everything that you know about a country, there's no way you can see it all. And also, there is so much that you don't know about a country that you definitely can't see it all. So don't worry about trying to cram it all into the one trip. I'm never, ever going to have the chance to go back to Europe. So I have to go, even if you don't ever come back, just treat it like you have the ability to come back, like you could come back later if you want to. And it will take so much of the stress off of your trip, so much of the stress off of traveling. And if you go into it knowing you're not going to see everything, then you don't have to worry about it. You can just let some things go, and you can just really enjoy the things that you do get to see and all of the small details surrounding them. When we're out traveling, like, we take pictures. We take lots of pictures of the girls, of the family, etc. But the point of traveling isn't to take pictures. The point of seeing things isn't to take pictures. It's not to capture the fact that you were there. It's not social proof Pixar didn't happen. Like, you're not proving anything to anyone. We have a sister, and her friend told her, like, hey, when you go to the Vatican, like, it's not worth seeing the Sistine Chapel. It's so small and you can't even take pictures anyway. So just skip it. And my wife and I just stared at each other. Are you serious? Is that is that your criteria for seeing something? I think you missed the point. I think you're missing all of it, because like, the point of seeing the Sistine Chapel, yeah, it might be smaller or so high that you can't really see the details all that well. And yeah, if you want to stare at all of the details of the painting, you should just look up an image on the internet so you can like zoom in and you can see it and stare at it and see everyone's commentaries on it for the last 400 years. Fine, like, you can totally do that. But the point of seeing St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican, the point of seeing cathedrals and duomos in Florence or in Milan or anywhere, the point of them isn't to take pictures. And when you take a picture of something, you automatically lose so much of the grandeur. I don't know if you noticed, but for whatever reason, anytime you try to take pictures of mountains, you're like, oh, look at the mountains, look at the sunset. You take a picture and you look at it on your phone, you're like, this looks like a toy. What is this, a mountain for ants? Like, it loses all of its grandeur in that picture. And I know there are incredible photographers out there, and so they do incredible things to try to incorporate or to capture the grandeur of these things. But like, when we're taking pictures, we're not getting it. We're not even getting close to it. And definitely nothing close to the feeling of being in that space. You walk into St. Peter's Basilica and like, it takes your breath away. And there are no pictures that can do that for you ever. So one, it shouldn't be a criteria of whether or not you can take pictures for you to like decide if you're going to see something, but that's not even the point of going to see it. It's to be in the space. It's to experience it. There is nothing like coming out of the train tunnel and walking up, and suddenly you are staring at the facade of a Duomo that's 200 feet tall. And you can't even comprehend how large these things are, how immaculate they are, the details. When you're walking around St. Peter's Basilica, you're looking at these huge 15-foot paintings in every direction. You're like, wow, look at the detail, look how incredible. And then you find out that they're not paintings, they're mosaics. There isn't a single painting in St. Peter's Basilica. They are all mosaics. And you're like, no, you're not. No, that is definitely a painting. And as you like look at it and you like move from side to side, you can see the light reflecting just ever so slightly off of each tiny little piece of tile or glass or whatever. And then you realize, oh, that is a mosaic. Oh my goodness. Like, you can't comprehend that in a picture. you have to be there. You have to be in its presence, and you just have to soak it in and just bask in the glory of these incredible things, whether it's nature, whether it's man-made, like some of these things, you just have to be there. And that feeling, that emotion, that overwhelming sense of awe that you have at some of these things, and that people spend hundreds of years, and them and their children's children and their great-grandchildren have all spent their lives building these things to worship their Lord and Savior, or to in honor of the king or the monarch or whatever. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible to get to see all of these things. And so when people come to visit, we do our best to help, to just to let them know to just take it in. Just take it in. Don't worry about the pictures. You're not even going to look at those pictures anyway. If you want to look at a picture of this thing, just Google it. There's 30,000 better pictures online of this thing that you will be able to remember your feelings anyway. When we travel, so much of what we remember isn't what we saw, it's how we felt while we were there. And so I very much recommend that if you're going places, maybe put your camera down and just try to feel the experience of being in these places. There's an example years ago when we lived in San Diego, and we went to the zoo. We went to the San Diego Zoo a lot. There's the San Diego Zoo, and then there's the safari park. And we'd already been there several times, but one time we decided to go to the safari park. And instead of rushing through to go see all the different animals, we're going to go to the flamingos and the monkeys and the rhinos. And we just decided, oh, hey, let's go sit and watch the elephants. And so we went, there's a bench there, and we sat down, and there were a couple people there at first, and then after a few minutes, they all left, and we just sat there and watched the elephants. We weren't in a rush. There was no kind of game plan from the beginning. We just wanted to go to the zoo, and so we go and we sit and watch the elephants in their giant enclosure, and they're playing with some of their elephant toys, and then they're trumpeting at each other, and then there's gate opens. They're walking around from one part of the enclosure to another, and we ended up sitting there for a couple hours just watching the elephants and watching them interact with each other, watching them interact with their home. And it was so cool. We just sat and talked. My wife and I just sat and talked. We don't remember what we talked about, but after probably being there for 2 hours, we were like, all right, I guess it's time to go. And we went home. We didn't see any other animals. We just sat and watched the elephants. And it was one of the most memorable experiences of going to the zoo that we have, because we got to just sit and soak up every detail that we possibly could in this one place. Everywhere you go, there are details. There are beautiful little things left, right, under your feet, up in the sky. There are so many beautiful things. And I think we spend too much time rushing from, like in the zoo example, from animal to animal. So we can go take a picture, run to the flamingos, take a picture, run to the bearded lizards, take a picture, and we miss everything. We miss the actual life of these animals. We see it, we take a picture, and we move on. And we didn't even see how it moved. We didn't see where it goes, where it went, what it does, how it interacts with the others. And we miss it. We miss all of it. All for the sake of, either for the sake of pictures or for the sake of being able to say that we saw them. And I think it's a sad thing that we do, that we're running around from place to make sure we can check all these things off our list. And maybe we would have a more impactful and meaningful time traveling if we just stopped and watched the elephants. We watched people. We looked at architecture. We just sat and watched the sunset as it sets in Verona and watch how it changes the colors of all of the beautiful buildings everywhere. I think we would get more out of our time in lots of places if we did that. All right, a couple lessons learned about ourselves. I know these are all super disjointed, so I apologize, but lessons we've learned about ourselves. I get pretty hangry. And so even when I think I'm doing all right, and I'm like, my wife's like, hey, are you hungry? I'm like, no, I'm fine. 15 minutes later, I am going to say, actually, no, I am pretty hungry. So when there's an opportunity for us to eat, I'm not saying we stop everywhere and eat, but if it's been a couple hours or something, my wife will usually ask, hey, do you need some food? I'm fine. The girls are fine. We got snacks here, but do you need some real food? And we usually take advantage of it. And it's not like we make a big ordeal of it, but we're walking along and there's some focaccia pizza here. And maybe we stop to get a pastry just because we love cannoli, but we'll stop and then I'll say, actually, I'm going to grab a slice of pizza. I'm like, all right, cool. And I grab a slice and maybe I eat all of it or maybe I eat half of it and then the girls eat a slice. But just to keep protein in the body and keep us moving and keep me from being super irritable and unpleasant to be around. So that was something that we've learned as we've traveled. The last big thing is hosting and being the tour guide. This is something that is a hot topic of conversation at work all the time. So there are lots of different kinds of visitors. And to everyone who is stationed overseas, or even not stationed overseas, but stationed in a place where people want to come out and visit you, I would love to hear stories that you guys have. But there are lots of different kinds of visitors. We have had the kind of visitors that are super chill. They just want to be with us. They just want to come see you. They want to hang out, play games, relax, just kick it, watch some movies, maybe go around just where you live, go on walks and stuff. But they just want to be a part of your life. They're just here to see you and see you in your environment, in your home of choice for the next couple of years. We love having those family members and those friends come hang out with us. We also have plenty of visitors who are like hyper planners with super packed itineraries who just want to see absolutely every possible thing, or they have a very specific detailed itinerary. We're going here and then here and we're doing this and we bought all the tickets and we're going to go. And if you want to join us on this part, awesome. Otherwise, we're going to go do all this stuff. Cool. That's cool. Hopefully you choose to spend some time with us because we are excited about seeing you. But also, I'm glad that you know what you want to do and that you're going to go out and you're going to do it. And then there are some that we've had it where we've had a couple family members come visit who basically plan this entire itinerary, and it has nothing to do with the fact that we live in Italy. It's as if they were like, oh yeah, we've got family that lives in Italy, so we're going to take advantage of that and we're going to go on a trip to France. You're like, that you could have done that whether or not we lived it. We could live in Florida and you could still take that trip because you're not even coming to see us. So I don't understand that, but it is what it is. We also have what I call the extremely high maintenance travelers, people who want you to take them on all the trips and show them all of the things and help them find all of the tickets and do everything with them. And when you're actually out traveling, they suddenly act like they are children who need to be taken care of the whole time. And it is exhausting. And despite every recommendation and if some of these high maintenance travelers are super packed and you don't want to miss out and want to see all of the things, maybe you recommend that they cut out stuff on their trip so they can slow down and have more downtime, or because their children are going to be exhausted, but they don't listen. And then they make decisions that are not only suboptimal, but those decisions cost you more and more, and they provide little to no benefit to their travel whatsoever, and you dread their trips coming. That is the kind of visitors that we just had on this last batch of travelers out here, and we are exhausted as a result. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. And then the perfect guest, as you will. We've got a couple family members that are like this, that are helpful and self-sufficient and take up no space and are nothing but wonderful the whole time. Like my sisters, they are so low maintenance. They are so easy to be with. They have low expectations. They are independent enough that they will go to the cafe on their own. They want to go to the grocery store. They'll be out for a few hours and just do their own thing. But when they're home, they want to help. They'll just do the dishes. They'll do some cleaning. They'll take care of the kids. They'll play with the kids. They'll do whatever. Everything just gets better by them being here. Hopefully you've got some family members like this in your family who are just self-sustaining and they're brave and they are just happy to engage in the world around you and just be with you guys. We love having these kinds of family members with us. And if those kinds of family members ever have a last minute trip that they're like, hey, we were thinking about just come, we're like, yes, please. Literally any time of the year, you are welcome to come. You can just show up and that would be great. But I'm going to go back to the exhausting family visit. We had a trip. The family was going to be here for 2 weeks, and it was exhausting before they even showed up. And things they reached out saying, hey, I want to use credit card points to book our tickets. And I was going to book through the portal and we weren't going to have enough points and I don't know how to do this, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, super easy. How many points do you have in which programs? And she told me, and I'm like, oh, I did some quick searching on pointsya.com and found, oh, you could actually transfer these points to Virgin Atlantic and you could book this flight and it would cost you 150,000 points for the 4 of you and $23 in taxes total. Here's the date. Here's the time. I even went and verified that it's available in Virgin. I'm like, you can do this? Sweet. It'll get you here at 9:30 in the morning. I can leave here at 8:30 to pick you up, super easy. And the response I got was, hey, there's another ticket the night before that would get us in earlier so that we have another day with you guys in Italy. And that ticket cost more points and cost almost $800 in taxes for all of them. And it got in at 11 p.m. the night before, less than 10 hours earlier than the flight that I'd got them in. And not only that, it's at 11 p.m. So I got to go pick them up at 11. So we're not going to be home until 12:30. And so I'm like, why is this? So we're already tired before the trip has even started. And that first week was lots of highs, lots of great things, but also a lot of burnout, a lot of exhaustion. And we were 1 week into the trip, and my wife and I were going to bed, and we were just kind of like talking in bed as she's feeding the baby. And she was just talking about how exhausted she was. And she's, we shouldn't have agreed to do all of these things. We should have said, if you want to do any overnight trips, like, you just got to do them on your own. We don't have it in us to do them. And we thought about it for a long time, because at first we were just complaining. We're like, oh man, and this is why it's not fun. This is why it's so exhausting, all of these things. But then we realized that we never set our boundaries clearly before the trip. And that's our own fault. We could have set up walls and boundaries and said, look, we're excited you're coming, but overnight trips, we're not going to go on them. We'll help you get the trains, the tickets, and all the things. But we don't have it in us to go on any overnight trips, because I don't know if you remember, but we have a baby who's only a few weeks old. So like, we don't have it, and it's going to cost us too much, and it's just not worth it. But we will happily take you on day trips all over the place. And if there are certain things you'd like to do, like, you can do them on your own. We'll help you figure it out. But we didn't set those boundaries, and instead we agreed to take them on all these trips, and it was tiring, and obviously cost a bunch of money getting the train tickets, going to places, getting Airbnbs and all the things. And it was just a lot. And we would have enjoyed the trip so much more and spent more of our time with these family members, if we had just minimized some of the negative interactions and maximized all the positive interactions that we could have. Because I'm sure they could probably tell that we were tired, and traveling was taking its toll on us as well. And that same trip also helped us realize, like, what aspects of certain visitors make traveling more exhausting than it does for others. If family members come out saying they just want to do or see whatever they can around us, and they don't really have anything in mind, then we can go through our list of things that we want to do and which things kind of line up with the stuff that they'd like, the needs that they have. And then we can take them on a trip that we would love also, because it's exciting for us, because it's stuff that we've already filtered out to all the stuff that we want to do. But if the family or friends come with a very specific itinerary of things that they want to do, then there's a good chance that a lot of stuff on that list we don't want to do. And maybe it's because we've done it too frequently, like we were just there, we just did it, or it's just too costly because of the children and whatnot. It doesn't really matter. But if we don't set the expectation that we won't join them, and we agree to do all these things, then we're setting ourselves up for less positive interactions. And that is on us. That is entirely on us. And if we think about family relationships on a more like existential level, I would say that we have a responsibility to our families to construct an environment in such a way that we maximize the positive interactions we have with our family members, and maybe minimize the negative interactions. And maybe we only have that responsibility to our families if we want to maintain a relationship with them. But imagine that you've got a brother who hates playing a certain board game for whatever reason. When it's time to play games as a family, maybe you don't recommend playing the game that your brother doesn't like playing. Or maybe if you hate playing a certain game, then if the family really wants to play it, then maybe you just, instead of playing the game that you hate, maybe you just back out and say, I'll sit out, but I'll watch, I'll hang out, or I'll sit here on the side, I'll make us some food, I'll do whatever. But there's no reason to intentionally bake in the friction that is going to be there, like, from the beginning. So there are actually things inside of our control that can set us up for success. And despite how frustrating some people may be at times, and while I was going off about frustrating parts about this trip, we didn't do the things that we could control, and instead we signed ourselves up for a trip that was going to be less enjoyable, and we're paying the price for it, and that's on us. All right. Yeah. So just a closing thought here as I go through the notes. The last kind of thing that I have to say is that traveling doesn't have to be exhausting. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to maximize every single second of your trip. But if you can do a better job of pacing your trip with enough downtime, with lots of relaxation, and still a balance of seeing things and doing things and having time to just rest and recuperate, then you can really enjoy travel. And you can do it with lots of kids. It can definitely happen. And my wife and I plan on having 6 or 7 kids. So we will continue to periodically update you all on things that we learn as we have more and more kids and continue to travel with all of those kids. But if you're asking me for advice, which you're not, but I guess if you're listening to the show in a way you are, and you just said, hey, what can I do about traveling? My recommendation is just slow down, watch the elephants, enjoy where you are, and don't worry about trying to cram every possible thing into your trip. You're going to miss stuff. So just accept that you're going to miss some things, and just enjoy all of the things that you do see, because there are lots of details that make life beautiful and rich. All right. I think that wraps us up for today. Thanks for hanging out with me on the Military Miler. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you want advice on what your next card should be, or you just want to share your wins or the lessons you've learned in lots of years of traveling, please shoot me an email at tusi@militarymiler.com. That's TUSI@militarymiler.com, or hit me up on Instagram at militarymiler. And if you've saved money or earned points because of something you learned on this show, please share the show with your friends, family members, crusty supervisors, mortal enemies, and please leave us a 5-star rating and a review wherever you are listening. Sharing the show and leaving positive ratings is the best way you can help me spread the message and help military members maximize their credit card benefits as they pursue the life of their dreams. And if you're looking to sign up for a new credit card, I would really appreciate it if you used one of the links in the description below. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.